Going with my college football game by game prediction and last discussion videos. Today I'll be doing the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So starting with the offensive side of the roster at quarterback, Notre Dame's expected starting quarterback for this season transferred out after spring practice. So now their expected starter is that CJ Carr, a freshman with no college experience, and he is a four-star recruit, but quarterback will be very questionable for Notre Dame this season. And at wide receiver, they bring in two good transfers, so they should be better there, but I wouldn't count on it because Notre Dame always seems to disappoint at wide receiver, but they bring in Malachi Fields from Virginia, who has in 2 years combined 113 catches for 1,619 yards and 10 touchdowns, averaging 14.3 a catch. And they bring in Will Pauling from Wisconsin, who in 2023 was one of the best receivers in the Big Ten with 74 catches for 837 and six touchdowns, averaging 11.3 a catch. But in 2024, he took a step back. He played in 10 games and had 42 catches for 407 and three touchdowns. Then his yards per catch average went down to 9.7. And Notre Dame has a Jaden Greathouse coming back at wide receiver who was inconsistent last year, but was their best wide receiver, and I think has the ability to be a good wide receiver. So I think their wide receiver room has the ability to be pretty good, and their running back room is in really good shape. It'll be one of the best in the country. They should be rushing for over 200 yards a game with Jeremiah Love coming back, who's probably the best offensive player on the team. And if he can stay healthy, there's a good chance he'll be averaging 100 yards rushing or more a game. I've talked about his numbers in my Heisman candidates video. They're very good. And Jadarian Price is back at running back number two. He had last year 746 yards on 120 carries, seven touchdowns, averaging 6.2 a carry. And their offensive line, I think, will be really good again. So they return at guard Billy Ross, who played in 25 uh, college games and made 15 college starts, and he's a four-star recruit. And last year he played and started in 12 games and only allowed one sack and eight total pressures. And they return at tackle Anthony Knapp, who was only a three-star recruit and was a freshman last year, and he started and played in 15 games, and he struggled early on, but played well later on in the season. So he allowed 28 total pressures and four sacks, and they got at tackle coming back Amel Wagner, who played and started in all 16 games last year. He's a four-star, and he gave up 29 total pressures, which is not great, but he only allowed two sacks. And they've got at center Ashton Craig, who's a four-star, and he's played in 11 college games and has made six college starts, but he only played in three games last year because of a season-ending ACL injury, but he's a good center. And their other starting guard will be likely Charles Jagwison, who is a four-star recruit, and he's only made two college starts and only played 186 college snaps, but one of his starts was in the national championship game against Ohio State. And in his college career, he's only allowed one sack and four total pressures. And now on the defensive side, this will be the best part of the team, I think. Notre Dame's defense should again be one of the best in the country. So their defensive line, I think, is going to be really good. They've got a junior Hualamaka or whatever his name is, who only made two starts last year, but he was very much involved in the rotation. He had 32 tackles and three sacks and 26 total pressures and two fumble recoveries and an interception and a pass breakup last season. And they've got Donovan Henish, who made three starts last year only, but was very much involved in the rotation and had 35 tackles and four and a half sacks, nine total pressures, and a pass breakup. And they've got Bryce Young, a five-star player who I think has a chance to be an All-American player this season. He didn't make any starts, but he was very much involved in the rotation. He was only a true freshman last year, but he had 23 tackles and one and a half sacks and 17 total pressures. And they've also got four-star Joshua Burnham, who played in 14 games and made 10 starts last year and had 30 tackles and two sacks, five total pressures, and a pass breakup, and a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. And at linebacker, they do lose Jack Kaiser, who was their best one and their leading tackler last year. But they do have Drake Bowen coming back, who had 78 tackles and a sack and three forced fumbles and two pass breakups and three total pressures last year. And they've got Jaden Osbury, who only made two starts last year, but was very much involved in the rotation and had 56 tackles and a sack and three total pressures and two fumble recoveries and a pass breakup. And they've got Jalen Sneed, who made six starts and was very much involved in the rotation, even when he wasn't making starts, and had 51 tackles and two and a half sacks and 16 total pressures and two forced fumbles and a fumble recovery last season. And they've got a five-star Kingston Valama Asa, who had last year 37 tackles and a sack and 17 total pressures and a fumble recovery and a pass breakup and an interception. He was a true freshman last year, and he only made one start, and he played in 14 games. I think he has a chance to be an All-American player this year. I think that he has the highest ceiling of all of the Notre Dame linebackers, and their secondary should be really good again. So at cornerback, they returned their best corner, Leonard Moore, who had last year 48 tackles and 11 pass breakups and two interceptions and two forced fumbles. And they return Christian Gray, who had 35 tackles and 9 pass breakups and 3 interceptions, one for a touchdown and a forced fumble in 15 games last season. And they bring in a transfer cornerback from Alabama, Devontae Smith, who is a 4 star and had in 10 games last year 30 tackles and 5 pass breakups and a forced fumble. So they should be really good at cornerback and at safety. They return a Don Schooler who had last season 59 tackles and 5 pass breakups and 3 interceptions, one that went for a touchdown and a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. And they bring in a transfer safety from Virginia Tech, Jalen Stroman, who will probably be the other starting safety, who barely played in 2024 because of a season-ending injury in the opener, but in 2023 played in 11 games and made 7 starts and had 55 tackles and 2 pass breakups. Predictions starting with on the road at Miami. Miami will be in much better shape at quarterback than Notre Dame will because I saw Carson Beck is now completely healthy from his shoulder injury, and the running back rooms of both teams are pretty similar. Notre Dame may be a little bit better, but Miami's still going to have a good run game too. And both offensive lines, they're really good. They're pretty similar there. Now, Notre Dame on paper has, I think, a better wide receiver room than Miami does. But Notre Dame, I think, has a much better defense than Miami uh, does in both the front seven and the secondary. So I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame lost this game, and I think it will be a close game. But I think Notre Dame is the better team overall. So I'm gonna go with them to get this win. And now Texas A&M. Texas A&M will be in better shape at quarterback than Notre Dame will, most likely. But uh, Texas A&M's offensive line will be the exact same as when they played Notre Dame last year. But those players didn't do very well against Notre Dame last year, but they will have had almost a whole season worth of more experience and spring and fall practice to try to improve. But Notre Dame's offensive line, I think, is a little bit better than Texas A&M's. And Texas A&M's run game, though, is I would say about as good as Notre Dame's is, possibly even better because they've got 3 good running backs and a good running quarterback, Marcel Reed. But Notre Dame has more depth and experience on the defensive side, and with this game being at Notre Dame, I'm going to go with Notre Dame to get this win, probably by around 10 points. And now Purdue, this should be a big blowout win for Notre Dame. Uh, Purdue will be lucky if they don't get shut out in this game, and Notre Dame will probably run the score way up. And now on the road at Arkansas. So Arkansas, I think, has a quarterback advantage over Notre Dame. Their quarterback, Taylon Green, is similar to what Riley Leonard was for Notre Dame last year, but I think he's a little bit better of a passer than Riley Leonard was last year. But Notre Dame has an advantage by a lot on the defensive side over Arkansas, and they've got a much better running back room, and their wide receiver room on paper looks better than Arkansas's is. They've for sure got more experienced wide receivers, and the offensive line it should be much better than Arkansas's. Well, now this may be a competitive game that might even be a four-quarter game and end up being pretty close. But Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure, will win this game. Marcus Freeman is a much better coach, I think, than Sam Pittman is. And now Boise State. So Boise State does return 69% of their production, which is ninth in the country, and they return their quarterback and 4 out of 5 starters on their offensive line. So they do though lose Ashton Genty, who was their best player on their team by far last season. And Boise State, though, I think does have enough coming back for this not to be a horrible blowout. It may be competitive for a while, but Boise State, even with Ashton Genty last year, would have lost badly to Notre Dame, and I think Notre Dame will win this game by a blowout. And now NC State, Notre Dame has so much more talent on both sides of the ball than NC State does, and they're a much better coach team. So I think Notre Dame will get this win by around 3 touchdowns. And now USC. USC, I think, will have a quarterback advantage over Notre Dame, but they have the last 2 years, and they've still lost to them because Notre Dame is a much more physical team than they are. And Notre Dame, on paper, looks about even with USC at wide receiver this year. And I know they have a much better running back room. And Notre Dame, I think, will have a much better defense than USC will. So this game will probably be competitive, but I do think Notre Dame will pull away in the fourth quarter and win by around 2 touchdowns. And now Boston College, they're a team that I think will be average at best. Notre Dame's got so much more talent on both sides of the ball than they do, and they're a much better coach team. So I think Notre Dame will get this win pretty easily, but probably not in a horrible blowout. And now Navy, this will be a huge blowout win for Notre Dame. They'll destroy Navy at the line of scrimmage. And now Pittsburgh, a team that I don't think is going to be very good. Notre Dame has much more talent on both sides of the ball than they do, and they're a much better coach team. So no reason to pick against them in this game. This should be a blowout win for Notre Dame. And now Syracuse. So something interesting about this one is Syracuse is the team that got the quarterback that was expected to start for Notre Dame this year. So Syracuse might have a quarterback advantage, but Notre Dame has more talent everywhere else on their roster than Syracuse does, and they've got a head coach that has more experience than the Syracuse head coach does. So this one could be competitive, but I expect Notre Dame to win it by at least a couple of touchdowns. And now Stanford, a horrible team, so much less talented and so much worse coach than Notre Dame is. This should be a big blowout win for Notre Dame. They might even get to play their second string for the whole second half in this one. So now my final prediction for Notre Dame is 12-0. And even though I kind of have a feeling that Notre Dame will lose the game this year, I couldn't find a game on here where I just thought I think they'll lose to this team, so that's why I picked them to go 12-0. But this will for sure get them back to the college football playoff. So that'll be it with this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll be back soon.